Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here to discuss some NC State men's basketball. Day after the Super Bowl, feels like officially the rest of the world, or the rest of the United States is officially kind of turned into college basketball a little more heavily. Here on Tobacco Road, obviously it's been the focus for the last month plus now at this point. NC State fans have been locked in for several months now at this point. But this feels like a game to me, NC State versus Louisville on the road. Quick turnaround, mind you, just a little over 48 hours since NC State played on Saturday in a win against Virginia Tech. But this feels like a game of two very similar teams. Two teams that, 2 years ago, both were kind of seemingly on a similar path when they faced off against each other in the ACC tournament. NC State able to win that game, makes a run, a crazy run all the way to the Final Four, an ACC championship, all those different things. And Louisville immediately hits reset. Went to Pat Kelsey. He becomes the head coach. They made a run last year into the top four of the ACC. Were able to make a run all the way to the ACC tournament championship. And that team was able to kind of make that turnaround immediately in year one under Pat Kelsey. NC State, completely different path as far as what happened last year, but this year makes the decision to go to a new head coach. Will Wade comes in. The thought process was, all right, we're gonna turn this thing around year one, and he's delivered thus far. Obviously we know that NC State has a tough back half of the schedule. You face Louisville on the road, you face UNC at home, you face Virginia on the road, Duke at home. All those different things have to be taken into account here. But this is a team right now that's 9-2 in ACC play. You've confirmed that you're going to finish with a winning record, probably at least get to 10 plus wins in ACC play. I think most would factor that in, whether it's against Miami, UNC, Notre Dame, or Stanford. NC State has another built-in win somewhere in there, if not trying to get to 12, which I think is kind of the magic number that's been set since the start of ACC play, trying to get to that number, which would require 3 more wins down the stretch in your last 7 or your last 8 games. So looking at this matchup, though, you've got what NC State calls the reckoning, the Red Reckoning, versus what Louisville called last year the Revival. It was spelled, Ville. I don't know if they're still going with that slogan, but it was there last year. So you've got the Reckoning versus the Revival, two teams that, again, kind of building on this upward trajectory compared to where it was the past 2 seasons. For NC State in this matchup, the pack priorities for me are going to be on the offensive end of the floor, trying to find a way to continue what they've been doing from a 3-point standpoint. This is a team that has been able to shoot the 3 extremely well, shooting actually one of the most efficient teams in the country, top 10 in the country. Since conference play started, and within conference play, no team is better at shooting the 3 than NC State from an efficiency standpoint. 41.7% shooting from 3-point range once it started conference play, which is number 1 in the country according to Ken Palm. 2-point efficiency, actually very good as well, 50.8%, which is 11th in the country. So pretty decent number there as well. And then they've been a really good free throw shooting team too. So offensively, it's been very good for NC State. As far as the defensive side of the basketball too, they've actually been top 15 in the country during conference play when it comes to 3-point shooting on the defensive end too. And that's where it's going to carry over to me. That's the biggest priority to me is for NC State. We know the offense can score in a number of different ways, but can they stop what has been one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country as well? A team that, again, once you start a conference play, this Louisville team is number 10 in the country in terms of 3-point shooting efficiency. They're number 2 in the country when it comes to 2-point shooting efficiency, which is at 58.8%. And then again, another very good team when it comes to the free throw shooting. This is a team that takes a ton of 3-pointers. Yes, we know they're good on the inside. One of the reasons why they're so efficient inside is they don't take mid-range jumpers. They just, if you're going to shoot from deep, you're going to shoot from outside the arc. If you're going to shoot from inside, You're going to shoot inside the paint. It's not going to be a bunch of 15-footers and trying to take difficult shots. This is a team that knows exactly what it wants to do and scores at will that way. They are number 1 in the country in three-point attempts on the season. They're averaging, let's see, as far as the shooting percentage, they're taking a wild number. 39.2% of their shots are from behind the arc. Or actually 52% of them are from behind the arc. They're scoring 39.2% from outside the arc so far this season. And then NC State, since conference play started, the only team that's ahead of them in the ACC in terms of where their points are coming from as far as 3-point shooting is concerned. The only team ahead of them right now in the ACC is Louisville. Louisville right now, number 2 in the country since conference play started at 39.2% of their points coming from behind the arc. NC State at 39%. So just behind them, 39.0%. They are number 3 in the country and where their shots are coming from. So expect a ton of 3-point shooting. To me, the biggest keys for NC State on the defensive end, obviously you have to limit what they're doing from a shooting standpoint from outside the arc. But it's really trying to force some of their poorer shooters to beat you there. Michael Brown Jr., a guy that, a ton of hype coming into the season. He's lived up to the hype from a scoring standpoint. And obviously, he's a guy that distributes the ball very well at the point guard position too, averaging 5.3 assists per game. NC State happens to have a guy that's been, slightly better and slightly more experienced when it comes to that as well with, obviously with Quadir Copeland and what he's been able to do this season. No one's saying that Quadir Copeland is going to be a better pro than Michael Brown Jr. or anything along those lines, but Michael Brown Jr., guy that's shooting just above 36%. So if you're trying to force him into taking shots, especially over the last 2 games, obviously they've been able to beat Wake and they've been able to beat Notre Dame, but if you can kind of force him into being the guy that needs to take the shots, he's struggled a little bit in bigger games. Think back to the Duke game. He went 1 of 13 in that game overall, 1 of 7 from behind the arc. It's one of the reasons why Duke was able to limit them offensively in the last 2 games against Wake and Notre Dame. He's actually shot a combined 3 of 17 overall from the floor. So they've been able to win those games. Obviously, his assists are a big part of that too, where he drives and kicks out. But if they're forcing him to be the guy, to be the shot creator, not helping as much on him, sure, that's going to lead to him getting points, but is that going to lead to outside shooting being as efficient as it has been for Louisville? We'll see. The other key here, too, is going to be the fact that they just have so many guys that shoot the 3 extremely well. They've got 5 guys that are shooting above 35% from 3-point range so far this season. But to me, it's going to be, again, kind of forcing some of those guys that aren't hitting a ton of shots from outside. Ryan Conwell Jr., one of the better scorers in the ACC, but he's shooting 35% from 3. He's taking a ton of threes. The key is going to be NC State defensively, not only forcing guys into tougher shots, running them off the line a little bit, but also you've got to finish around the rim. You've got to finish when it comes to on the defensive end of the floor. Finish with those defensive rebounds. Make them feel like the team that's hurried up. Make them feel like the team that needs to take more high efficiency shots as opposed to threes, because you're able to rebound the ball well. This is a good rebounding team, not a great rebounding team. You look at the past few games, NC State has been decent enough when it comes to rebounding the basketball. You're either going to have to force a ton of turnovers, which this team doesn't turn the ball over a ton, or you're going to have to rebound. They average 40.3 rebounds per game. NC State averaging 35.7. So that's going to be a number that you need to watch for. Either you force them into bad shots and get the rebounds, or if they're getting the rebounds and they're able to get second chance opportunities, they're able to set up their offense yet again. It's going to be a really tough night for NC State. So they've got to be able to rebound the ball well. But also, I mentioned it. You go back to the Clemson game. I mentioned, but right before that game, like NC State needs to be a much more efficient team against this defense. For NC State, you have to force Louisville into not being an efficient team and not being able to get the rebounds. So they've got to be able to do that on the defensive end to really force this team into an uncomfortable situation on the road for NC State. So all those things take into account. Again, it all kind of lives and dies with both of these teams on the three. So those are going to be the keys. For NC State, you have to be efficient from the three-point arc. You have to be able to kind of finish inside every once in a while and be able to be efficient there too. But it's going to come down to the three-pointers. It's going to come down to guys like Paul McNeil. Obviously, Trey Holloman has made over three-pointers in the last few games. Darian Williams, a little bit of a down game as far as a scoring standpoint on Saturday, but he's been really good on the road, especially as far as three-point shooting. He had made over three in the previous 3 games. It was scoring 20-plus points per game in the previous 3 games prior to the Virginia Tech game, and 2 of those coming on the road. So can he carry that over? But my pick to click, and we've heard about it the past few weeks from Will Wade. We've seen it a little bit in volume, is a guy like Matt Abel. I think Matt Abel, if he's able to be that guy that the freshman that you expected before the season, if he's able, and I'm not saying he has to come out and get you be your leading scorer in order to be the pick to click in this one, but I think if you can get him to be that efficient scorer, if you can get him to score at multiple levels in this one, especially from 3-point range, the last 2 games, 1 of 2 from 3-point range against Virginia Tech, so it didn't take a high volume. SMU, he was 2 of 6 and hit both of his in the second half. So over his last 4 attempts, he's 3 of 4 from 3-point range. So you take all those numbers into account, it just feels like at some point Matt Abel is going to have one of these bigger games. I talked about it like late December with Paul McNeil. It's like, all right, at some point this guy's going to start clicking, and he really, really did down the stretch. I think that was right before, that was well before the Texas Southern game. I might have gotten it wrong on that one, but eventually it's like, all right, this guy's going to get going. Matt Abel feels like another one of those pieces that just hasn't quite gotten going, from a scoring standpoint for NC State throughout the season, but he's been efficient for NC State. He's been a better offensive piece for NC State at times than other guys in this lineup. I know Terrence Arsenault, I love what he gives you from a defensive standpoint, but you're going to need offense in buckets in this game. And I feel like Matt Abel is a guy that if you're able to get your normal numbers from Darian Williams on the road, if you're able to get your numbers from Paul McNeil on the road, if you're able to get some good numbers from guys like Trey Holloman and Venal Lubin in the starting lineup and Whittier Copeland, like that's your starting 5. If you're able to get 70 points or somewhere between 60 to 70 points out of those guys, that's a really, really good night. You need somebody else to push you over the top, and Matt Abel feels like one of those guys that in this game has a chance to really click and really help this NC State offense to be able to push forward. As far as the over, or as far as the prediction in this one, the over is at 161.5, and NC State is a dog, I believe, by 6.5 was the last I saw. Louisville, favored by 6.5 in this one. So NC State, if you're going to win this game, it does feel like it needs to be in the upper 70s, low 80s. I'm picking NC State to actually win this game and keep this streak going. And the only way they're going to do it again, I think, is going to be somewhere between, I talked about it during the game against Clemson. It's going to be tight, but this feels like a game where if NC State is efficient, if they can hit some 3-pointers early, continue to kind of get the doubt to kind of creep into the minds of the fans and Louisville and make them play from behind in this one. That's where Louisville has struggled so far this season. They've lost 2 games at home. Both of them have been games where they've gotten punched in the mouth. Duke was able to do that on the road. Virginia was able to find a way to win. If you want to put yourself in that upper echelon of teams like NC State does, you've got to find a way to get off to a strong start in this one and come out and win with authority in this one. I'm going to put it somewhere around 81-77, NC State winning this game, and that would put it, I believe, on the under just barely. So NC State finding a way to win this game, 81-77, 81-78, somewhere in that range. Feels like a game for NC State that's totally winnable. And it's kind of around the same number that NC State's had on average this season. That would be a little bit below average for UVA, for Louisville this season. But if NC State's going to win this game, it's going to be around that number. So Obviously, focusing on the three-pointers, NC State has to be efficient there. They have to be able to run some guys off the line, Ryan Conwell, Michael Brown Jr., those kinds of guys that are going to take the threes. You also got several others in this Louisville lineup that can hit the three. So, but I feel like the focus needs to be there. Two guys that want to shoot the three, but have not been nearly as efficient as others in this lineup for them. Isaac Neely, obviously a guy that shoots the ball extremely well. But has been a 39.6% three-point shooter this season. So he's around almost 40%. You really do not want him being the guy taking the shots. So forcing him, maybe helping off a little bit on him and forcing him to take it, send it to other guys and let them take those shots. So we'll ultimately see what ends up happening tonight. But NC State, to me, I'm picking it 81-77. This is a game that could flip either way. Don't think it's a frustrating one if you lose this game because it is a quad one opportunity for both of these teams. That's how good these teams are so far this season. But we will talk much more about this game throughout the night. I'll have Brian Geisinger on the podcast tonight to talk about it afterwards. Thank you again, everybody, for listening. We will talk to you again soon.